Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into something pretty wild, the Roman Colosseum. But not for the gladiators. We're going beyond that. We're talking about the Roman beast hunts.
Oh yeah, those were something else.
These events were huge. Emperor Augustus bragged about having 3,500 animals killed in just 26 events.
That's a lot, and that's just one emperor. Think about the Colosseum's opening games. It lasted for over 100 days, and they killed over 9,000 animals.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, just the logistics of it all. Thousands of animals from every corner of the Roman Empire. It's mind-boggling.
You're telling me. And the Romans had a taste for the exotic, lions and tigers and bears, oh my, but also elephants and rhinoceroses even, all brought in from far-off lands.
Africa.
Africa, India, you name it. Imagine the port of Alexandria in Egypt. Ships coming in, loaded down with exotic animals. All these animals carefully chosen for how fierce they were or how rare.
So from Alexandria, they shipped them all the way to Rome.
Well, sometimes they had to go overland, too. Huge caravans traveling for months.
It's hard to imagine how they kept all those animals alive. Or even contained. I mean, you can transport a tiger, but it's still a tiger.
Exactly. And they needed people who knew how to handle these animals. Expert hunters. Like the Tenti people of Egypt, they were famous for catching crocodiles.
So the Romans were smart enough to use the locals' know-how.
Yeah, they had a whole system. From catching these animals, to moving them, to putting them on display.
So it makes you wonder, was it all just about the spectacle? About the Romans' thirst for blood?
That's a good question. I mean, there was definitely an element of entertainment, of wanting to see these powerful animals fight, but it went deeper than that.
Well, this is the same civilization that had gladiator combat. So the brutality of the beast hunts isn't that surprising, I guess.
That's true, but the beast hunts were also about power and control, about showing off the might of the Roman Empire.
It's like they were saying, look at us. We're so powerful we could even control these wild beasts.
Exactly. And they wanted everyone to get that message, not just the people they conquered, but their own citizens back home.
Like some kind of propaganda campaign, showing the power of Rome.
Yeah, you could think of it that way. These beast hunts were part of how they built up this image of Rome being the most powerful empire in the world.
But it wasn't just about raw power, right? They also had to actually hunt these animals, and that must have taken some serious skill.
That's right. The Romans were really impressed by hunters who could take down these dangerous creatures.
I can picture it now, a packed Colosseum, everyone watching as a hunter takes down a lion with just one arrow.
It must have been amazing and terrifying to see.
But things didn't always go as planned, did they? I mean, these were wild animals after all.
You're right, there are stories about hunts going wrong, animals escaping and causing chaos.
Like that story about Pompey, the Roman general, and his elephant hunt, right?
Oh yeah, that's a classic. Pompey put on a huge elephant hunt in the Circus Maximus, you know, that big chariot racing stadium?
That must have been wild.
He thought it would make him look powerful and popular, but it didn't really work out that way.
The elephants tried to escape,
Oh, right.
and it seemed like they were pleading with the crowd for help.
Exactly. And it completely backfired on Pompey. The historian Cicero was actually there, and he wrote about how the crowd turned against Pompey.
Seriously.
Yeah, they felt bad for the elephants. Cicero even said that there was this feeling of fellowship between the people and the animals in that moment.
Wow. I mean, you wouldn't expect that kind of compassion in the middle of such a violent spectacle.
It's interesting, isn't it? It shows that even the Romans, with their love of blood sports, could feel empathy for animals. It gives you a glimpse into their complex relationship with the natural world.
So even in ancient Rome, with all the violence, you had people feeling for the animals.
It's true. Some Romans, like Cicero, really did seem to see a connection between humans and animals, but others, they just loved the brutality of these hunts. It's hard to say for sure how most people felt, and as the Roman Empire grew, the types of animals in the arena got more and more exotic. What the crowds would accept, well, that changed too.
Like that rhino, the one that threw a bull into the air. Didn't the crowds love that one? At least at first.
Oh yeah, he was a big hit. But you know, the sources tell us that later on, the rhino didn't want to fight anymore. Can you imagine being forced back into that arena over and over again?
Makes you think about the stress those animals must have felt. It's pretty awful. They'd whip them and even use fire just to get them to fight.
I know, it's hard to hear about. You'd think the crowds would get bored seeing an animal that clearly didn't want to be there. But actually, it seems like the opposite happened.
Really? You're kidding?
Nope. They actually minted coins with that rhino's image. There are inscriptions about its fights, too. It seems like people were really fascinated, even by the animal's suffering. Roman ideas about entertainment, they were definitely different back then.
It's a lot to take in, for sure. On the one hand, you have this incredible system they created, the hunters, the logistics of bringing these animals from all over. And on the other hand, you have this cruelty, this total disregard for animal welfare.
Yeah. It's both impressive and disturbing. The beast hunts really do give us a unique look at Roman society. They were capable of incredible things, but also of terrible brutality. And it's thanks to the sources we have, the coins, inscriptions, even letters and poems, that we can understand all of this.
And we haven't even mentioned that these hunts weren't just for entertainment. The Romans also used them for executions, right?
That's right. Especially for people seen as enemies of Rome or from the lower classes.
And the type of animal they used for the execution, that often had some symbolic meaning too, didn't it?
Definitely. Like they might use lions or bears to execute deserters from the army. Like those animals represented Roman strength and ferocity, and the deserters had betrayed that.
So it all ties back to Roman power, doesn't it? The beast
Yeah.
hunts were connected to everything. Their society, their politics, even their identity.
Exactly. And
Mm.
that's why they're so fascinating to study. We're not just learning about animals, we're learning about how an entire civilization saw the world, their values, their fears, even their dreams.
So for everyone listening, we want to leave you with something to think about. What do these Roman beast hunts tell us about how humans have treated animals throughout history? Have we changed? What can we learn from this part of our past, even if it is a pretty brutal one?
That's a great question to consider. And if you've enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to subscribe to the deep dive for more. We'll be back soon with more mysteries to unravel, more hidden truths to uncover. See you next time.